Right here on WOCA The Source.
WOCA.
All right, thank you. 19 minutes after 11 o'clock. Beautiful looking Thursday. Hope you're doing well. Robin, imagine for a second just if you were a journalist and you've basically interviewed every name under the sun. You've interviewed everybody, even the great interviewers, right?
Yeah.
Our next guest has interviewed Bob Hope. Is that right? Benjamin Netanyahu, Reverend Billy Graham, Barbara Bush, Nancy Reagan. Somewhere in here, I remember seeing the Beatles mentioned in here. Our next guest not only has interviewed well-known names, but he has been in the places that you've heard about, like wars. And he's been on news programs like NBC News, ABC News, CNN. My goodness, this guy's been around for a long time. And imagine if you had that same kind of a career as Don Farmer, who's our next guest. I'll just tell you right off the bat. What kind of a novel do you think you could be able to write? I mean, with all of that to draw from.
Oh, yeah.
You absolutely, it's got to be like, like a nugget of flavor or something. I don't know.
It'd be more than one I would have to write.
Don Farmer has done that. Yes. I know many of you probably know him already. He's written a book called Deadly News, and I believe Chris Curl is his wife, you said, right?
Yes.
So he wrote the book, it looks like, with Chris Curl. And let's say hello, Don Farmer. It's an honor to be able to say good morning to you on the air. Good morning, Don.
Good morning to you guys.
Where are you right now?
Right now I'm in Marco Island, Florida, where Chris and I live.
Oh, nice.
And we've set part of the book in Florida because of that, part of the story in the novel Deadly News. It's a story that a lot of media people will enjoy. And since you guys are media people, by the way, let me just take a minute to say, I should be interviewing you. You guys have been everywhere and done everything, and I was noticing especially the fact that you both write not just music, but also books and children's oriented.
My goodness, books. You've done your homework.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that amazes me. I learned when we go to book events and various authors are in the room, I noticed that the people who are writing children's books are selling all the books. It's amazing. So we're writing an adult, not a XXX kind of adult, but for grown-ups. And I'm thinking they're selling more books than we are. So I think our next novel is going to be called. Well, I'm not sure what it's going to be called, but it's going to feature an 8-year-old. It's going to feature an 8-year-old breakfast cereal killer.
Oh no, a breakfast cereal killer. Oh, that's good. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. And was this something you were dying to do? You kind of a pun there, isn't it? I didn't mean it that way. I mean, writing this kind of a story, was it something that you'd wanted to do for a long time?
Yeah, they say everybody's got a book in him or in her at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but people say, well, why are you writing the fiction after spending careers, both of us, 50 years and more, in television and radio? And I have to point out to them, a lot of people think that we were doing fiction the whole time anyway.
Oh my gosh!
They don't like. A lot of people don't like television news much anymore. And this book will give you some reasons why that's true. Although it's a novel, I have to keep saying that. The lawyers keep telling me that it's a novel. Just fiction.
It is a novel, but if we sat down without a microphone in front of us and an audience, would we get out of you? That little piece is true right there. That piece that really happened. Would we get those little pieces from you?
Well, yeah. So a lot of it's composite characters. You know how to do that. And I think if we sat down off mic, I bet you guys could tell some great stories that you might not even tell on the air yourself.
Oh yeah, well that's the fun part about sitting at a coffee table. that's the fun part. We talk all day long, but yeah, those conversations don't happen on the air. Well, this is fun. Now, how do you write a work of fiction with somebody else? And it's not that you're the first author we've ever had who has had a co-author, but especially if she's your wife. I mean, what was that like?
We've been married 42 years now, and we were among the first anchors on CNN when it started in 1980, and we co-anchored together there for many years, and elsewhere, including a couple of TV stations and with ABC News. So we're used to it. A lot of people say, how could you work with your wife, or how can you work with your husband 24 hours a day your companion, whatever it is, and we could say, Chris used to say, well, because we had a microwave oven and 2 bathrooms and 2 cars.
We know one of the early CNN pioneers, Joe Rothenberger, who lives in our area.
Oh yeah.
You remember Joe?
Yeah.
I do, yeah, sure. CNN is a troubled place right now in terms of the ratings, as you know, and so one of the most outrageous things of recent time is how they're spending 24 hours a day on this missing airplane, which is kind of ridiculous. But that kind of brings up a part of our book, which we take you behind the scenes about when there's a major event, and the book begins with the murder of a Hollywood star in a spectacular fashion that I won't describe for you, but it's worth the first chapter just to read that. And then that takes you behind the scenes on how all these TV stations from around the country convene on Atlanta, Georgia, and then eventually in Florida to cover this big story that involves all of them. So that's really one of the parts. The book is called Deadly News, and that's because it's not that the news is deadly boring. It's the news is deadly because some of the news people get dead.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion similar to this morning. One of our co-hosts in the morning is a former news guy from TV, from local TV, and we were talking about, have you ever had the camera? And he was a cameraman actually, and somebody's taking a swipe at you because you've got a camera.
Yeah.
He was following somebody who was arrested, I guess, with the camera, and the guy who was arrested didn't like a camera in his face, and he literally punched the camera and broke the lens.
Exactly.
One time, way back when, I was covering the civil rights movement in the South for many years for ABC News, and it was in a little town in Mississippi. Keep in mind, this was in the '60s, so things have changed, thank God.
Yeah, right.
There was a African American small protest parade going down this town, and a lot of the storekeepers in the white community didn't like that. And we walked down there, and out of this hardware store came a lady, and I was following these demonstrators with a cameraman and a microphone. And this lady came out of this hardware store with clipping shears, giant shears.
Wow.
Right? And she came after me. She started screaming to me, "You long-haired hippie freak!" Get up. Well, I guess that qualifies.
Did you? No. Did you have long hair? Or I mean, look, I'm looking at your photo.
No, I didn't have long hair. Longer than her husband's. What? Yeah, it was sort of like the Beatles,
Yeah, that's funny. Well, obviously, somebody who's been writing all of his life is going to be a good writer. But were there challenges in writing fiction as opposed to what you would write normally for journalism?
One of the challenges is to keep the names straight because you made them up, and to keep the facts straight because you made them up. And Chris, I wrote most of the book, but Chris did most of the research and did a lot of backing me up. She calls herself the backup singer, which you guys would understand in your business. And excuse me, she would be around to say things like, reading what I had just written, say, "Don, nobody talks like that," or "Don, nobody would say that." So she was a great help in kind of keeping it real. And all the research, because a lot of research goes into a book like this because of the technology, if you're talking about TV,
Now, did you have the ending already worked out before we find out about it? Or did it kind of unfold and you were just as surprised as we are?
The ending?
Yeah.
Well, we've had two endings. The one we have is the better of the two, obviously. But the first one, our daughter, who is a good writer and a performer also, she said, "This is not real. It's too contrived. It's preposterous." So we went back to the drawing books on the last chapter or two, and we fixed it up, and now it's pretty exciting.
Oh wow! If you're just tuning in, Don Farmer is our guest. If you lived in Atlanta, you probably saw Don on TV. Actually, if you lived anywhere, you've been on pretty much everything. The new book is called Deadly News. It is a thriller novel, but I'm a little bit unsure about this. This is your first novel, right?
It's the first novel. I wrote a nonfiction book about a few years ago with my old pal Skip Carey, who's now deceased, the son of Harry Carey, the broadcaster,
Oh, right, okay.
And Skip was the voice of the Atlanta Braves, and he and I were college roommates together. So we wrote a book called Roomies about the worlds of TV news and sports. But this is the first novel, and we're already getting ready to start the second one. Because, just writing a novel is fun because, as I said, you can make it up. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you cannot fool the readers because you have to have all of the research behind all of the characters from dialogue to the scenarios because you won't be able to fool them and they need to feel like they're a part of the book. which
Well,
you
you
do
guys-
well.
As writers yourselves, you perform. You know that's for sure. And I say thank you, Chris Curl, because as I say, she kept it real and was able to keep the continuity and keep it going forward and not get bogged down, because so many writers get bogged down and get depressed and put it in the drawer and pick it up 20 years later.
Right.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for being on the air with us, Don. It is an honor to be able to say you've been on our show. The book is called Deadly News. I have a copy of it, so if you would like it, call me. I'll give you the copy that Don sent us. The rest
No, that doesn't work that way.
the rest of us have to go buy it. Why? Did you sign it or something? Yeah, you did sign it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, they both signed it.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so you get a signed book if you call me right now. And the rest of us...
You have two jobs now. You have to read it and tell everybody you like it.
That's right.
DeadlyNewsThriller.com is the website, correct, Don?
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, we will take a little break and we will be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. One of the many students hurt in yesterday's Pennsylvania high school stabbing spree, recalling the terror going through his mind.
Will I survive or will I die?
Brett Hurt, who was injured. The 16-year-old suspect, Alex Ribel, being held without bail. There are conflicting reports about the sophomore.
Who some students say was bullied.